Hey everybody, this is Josh with Valken Sports. You may also know me as the most interesting man in airsoft, and today we're going to go over modifying the selector plate in the V12 engine. So let's go over why we'd want to modify the selector plate. So if you have a build or an install for the V12 and you will plug in your battery and it's in safe and you'll see the red light come on. Obviously you don't want that to happen because you can't program it, and it obviously fires while it's in safe. So we're going to go over the modifications for the selector to adjust it for that body. So we'll go ahead and remove the cylinder and the trigger. So real quick, let's just talk about the selector and the micro switches and what they do. So here you'll notice you have the fingers, we'll just refer to them as the fingers on the selector, a long finger and a short finger. Your top one goes to this activates your semi-automatic feature, and the bottom one activates your full auto feature. So ideally when it's in safe, the selector is all the way back and is fully disengaged from the top switch. Sometimes what happens is your body will only partially disengage it, and I mean it's ever so slightly touching that top one. So what we'll want to do is remove some of the material on the selector here. It's very simple. We'll just have to file it or file a bevel on it. So we'll need to, after the cylinder and the trigger are removed, we'll need to remove the fire control unit by removing the 2mm Allen screws. And you'll gently remove your circuit board. And then you can flip over the left side of the shell and you'll move it all the way forward, lift up on the rear, remove it from the track, pull back, and it just comes out of the shell. Now, I like to use a fine file because I like to take off as little as possible so that I can control how much of the material I remove. If you use a coarse file, sometimes you can run the risk of taking too much material and then you'll need to order a new selector plate. So I will just kind of set my file at a 45-degree bevel, and we'll file and remove the material. Doesn't take a lot, it's just a little bit of material, and we'll go ahead and reinstall it in the engine. Make sure it moves freely. Now when you test it, you really only need to reinstall the selector plate and the fire control board. You don't even have to install the trigger, but if you wanted to verify that it's not firing and safe and you don't want to just rely on the LED, you can certainly reinstall the trigger. So we're just going to go ahead and reinstall the trigger. And when you reinstall the trigger, you want to be careful not to damage the micro switch for the trigger. Just get it set properly. And we'll reinstall the right side of the shell. And we really only need 2 screws to hold it in place. And you'll notice here without the cylinder, you don't have the rear body pin to hold it in place, but I just use the grip to just kind of lock it into place because it gives you a pretty good idea. It's not perfect, but it gives you a pretty good idea because the engine will be tight to the bottom of the body and it should be level when you tighten down the grip. And when you leave out the cylinder, then you'll be able to look down inside and look at the selector and see what the selector is doing. So you can see there, you can see the selector moving, and you can actually look down and visually check and verify that the selector is disengaging from the micro switch. So right now we'll put it in safe, and we'll plug in our battery. Okay, no blinking light. Go into safe, you'll see it blink once. All right, safe, no light, semi, one blinking light. And then you can also hold down the trigger and it'll go into your programming mode, and you can cycle through all your programming options. And that is how you adjust your selector plate for some of your custom V12